Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and today's the first day of week 2 of Magic Origins official spoilers, and we have 9 new cards to take a look at, and we got some more pretty powerful cards, so let's just jump in. First, let's take a look at the basic lands, though. They did reveal what all the basic lands look like, and some of these are planes we haven't visited yet, which is pretty cool and exciting, so we're going to see some different artwork, and then for the planes that we did visit, there are some kind of reprints from older lands. So here's your planes. Here's the islands, the swamps, the mountains, and finally the forests. Okay, let's go on to our first new card, and that's Hallowed Moonlight. And it costs 2. It's an instant. Until end of turn, if a creature would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast, exile it instead, and you get to cantrip off of it. The cantrip's nice, just in case this ends up in your deck and you don't have a target for it. You can always just basically cycle it, so that's kind of cool. But what's really interesting about this is it's going to be probably a decent sideboard card, maybe even in Modern. Right now, there isn't really a reanimation strategy in Standard unless the cards that come out in this set and the next couple sets change that. But, you know, in Modern, there are different types of strategies to cheat cards into play. There's a very successful deck recently that works by cheating cards into play. This could also find itself in Legacy to stop Sneak and Show. So very interesting Eternal format implications here, and I like when they do that. This card may never find a home in Limited or even in Standard, but this card looks to me like it was designed to maybe weaken some of the strong decks in Legacy, Vintage, and in Modern. So that's kind of cool. Next is Thopter Spy Network, and here's one of those cards that just seems really powerful to me. It's 2 blue and 2 colorless enchantment. You know, usually I'm not a big fan of casting an enchantment, especially for 4 and taking the turn off. However, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control an artifact, put a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying onto the battlefield. When one or more artifact creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. So to me, this kind of feels like the quote-unquote fixed Bitter Blossom. Now, paying 4 is a lot different from paying 2. I get it. But if you can pay 4 and you have an artifact in play, which isn't super hard, there's a lot of cheap artifacts out there. You can get 0 and 1 casting cost artifacts. This thing will start functioning. And once it turns on and you get a 1/1, now you have a 1/1 artifact creature. And if it gets across, you get to draw a card every turn as well. Like, this is more expensive than Bitter Blossom, but it's got a ton of upside. And I get it, it also makes you jump through the hoop of having an artifact to start it off, but it's also not pinging you for 1 life a turn either. So this card to me seems crazy. I would not be surprised if this sees Standard play. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody finds a way to work this even into Modern. Very potentially powerful card here. And if you get this in Limited, even though it's enchantment and you have to take a turn off to play it, it's still going to be a bomb. I would play this in Limited. This is going to be a good card, I think. Alright, the next card comes to us from an Italian spoiler, and it is Deathblade Predator. Cost 3, Human Warrior, Death Touch, and whenever he deals damage to a player, that player loses life equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. So he's hard to deal with at 1/4. He's not going to be taken out by a lot of your normal direct damage spells that do 2 or 3. So that's pretty interesting. He has Death Touch, so you kind of don't really want to block him with your big creatures because he's going to kill them. And there's a chance, unless the creature can do more than 3 damage, it's not going to be a profitable block for you. But at the same time, if there's a lot of creatures in your opponent's graveyard, you don't want to be hit by this. You could be taking a good amount of damage. So it seems like there's definitely this fill the graveyard sort of strategy that maybe we'll be seeing more support cards for. Maybe it goes along with the zombie matters that we've kind of seen as well in Black. So in the limited game, if there's enough support for a creature like this, he could be decent. Now, if there's not a lot of support to get a lot of creatures in your graveyard, over time, creatures in your graveyard will just naturally occur, so he's still going to be fine in Limited, but he might not find a home in, say, like Standard or anything like that. To me, this feels like a decent Commander card. I'd like to try to play this out in a Commander game and see if you can make this profitable for you, especially if you have a lot of mill effects where you can mill yourself, stuff like that. I think it will definitely find a home. I don't think it'll be Standard, but there'll be places where this will be played. All right, this next card is interesting. Infinite Obliteration. So it costs 2 black and a colorless. It's a sorcery. Name a creature card. Search target opponent's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with the same name and exile them. And then they shuffle their library. So it's similar in ways to cards like Extirpate or Surgical Extraction, but it only works on a creature card, so that's the downside. But the plus side is you don't have to target that creature. Like a lot of times, cards like this, you either have to target a creature in play to get this effect, or target a creature in a graveyard, or maybe target a card in a hand. But here you just simply have to name the card. You don't even have to see the card. If you can guess what deck your opponent's playing, you can take out maybe what is their most important creature. So this is deceptively good, I think. Initially, you look at it and say, oh, it's just a creature card. I can't bust all these combos with it. Yeah, that's true, but if the creature is part of the combo, you can bust the combo. And even if you're not playing against a combo deck, you can just take out the best creature. Snapcaster Mage, for example, just gone. Siege Rhino, gone. Like just from turn 3, those cards are gone. They're no longer anything you have to worry about. This seems crazy to me. So, yes, for standard play. In limited, maybe you sideboard this in after you know what cards your opponent's playing. It helps you get rid of a threat. Basically, like playing terror on a threat before your opponent even plays it, which is very good and limited. And as far as, say, other Eternal formats go, yes, I could see this seeing play to break up creature-based combos in places like Modern and Legacy. Now, obviously, this card is probably not going to be as good in Commander, but it could still kind of mess up some Commander decks that are looking for a key creature here and there. So, very interesting and powerful card. I'm very excited to see what happens with this one. Alright, next card is the Great Aurora, and it is a mythic rare. It costs 3 green, 6 colorless. It's a sorcery. Each player shuffles all cards from his or her hand and all permanents he or she owns into his or her library, then draws that many cards. Each player may put any number of land cards from his or her hand onto the battlefield, and then you exile this card. So it's basically a board sweep that's going to in some ways reset the game other than life totals and stuff. So everything that's on the board gets cleaned up, your hand gets cleaned up, shuffled back in, you start over, and you get a little bit of a time advantage by starting out with any lands you draw into the battlefield. Very interesting card. Definitely could see some implications in Commander for something like this. I obviously, first off, too expensive for a normal deck to play. It's not going to make it into like standard or anything like that. Don't really see the advantage in limited. This is a card that it's only going to do you well if you're behind and you're trying to catch up in limited, and you happen to have 9 mana to cast, 3 of it being green. So I don't really see that being a thing. Now, is there some way to abuse this card in like an Eternal format with like Omniscience or something like that? Probably. Someone might figure it out. Maybe Dream Halls. I don't know. But if you can cheat this into play without paying the casting cost, you could get it. But then the next question is the effect really that helpful to you? So, so I don't know. I'm sure there's a way to break this card. I just can't think of it offhand. Someone will figure it out, and maybe in a legacy format or something like that, it will do something crazy. But other than that, I'm just not really seeing it. Next is Embermaw Monstrosity, and this costs 5. It's a Hellion with Trample, and if another red source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals that much damage +1 to that permanent or player instead. So it's a pretty nice sized creature being a 4/5, so paying 5 for a 4/5, which is actually going to do 5 damage when it hits, is pretty good. I would have no issue with that at all, just as a creature. And the fact that you get a little bonus damage out of it from your other creatures and spells, that's pretty cool. So this is a great guy. If there is a red burn deck out there in standard, yeah, he could be top of the curve for that. I don't know if I see him making it into the modern burn deck. There's just a lot of competition for spells, great spells in that deck. But standard version, definitely. And he's a house and limited for sure. Next is Goblin Glory Chaser, and this is a 1-drop, 1/1 with Renown 1, and once he's renowned, he gets Menace. He's at uncommon, so he must have tested pretty powerful. My only issue with this card, though, is obviously is only a limited card, but in limited you really have to get him out turn 1 to get the advantage out of him. Now, if you get him out turn 1 and turn 2 you get in for damage, and then turn 3 you're able to use the Menace ability to get in for maybe 2, maybe 4 more damage on the next turn, that's not bad at all. But if you draw him really after the first turn or second turn, and even when you're on the draw, he's just not as good. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm feeling this guy. I don't know if he's going to make or cut and limited all the time. Speaking of red 1-drops, here's a powerful one, Molten Vortex. And this costs 1 red, it's an enchantment, and you can pay 1 red, discard a land card, and Molten Vortex deals 2 damage to target creature or player. This is very, very powerful. Anyone who's played with Seismic Assaults before knows how powerful these type of effects can be in the right deck. I can definitely see this getting there in Standard. This could see some serious Standard play. This is the type of card that could shape the meta game, so we'll have to watch and see, but this will definitely have some play there. This is also great and limited. It's just so cheap, and even if you don't have a strategy around it, just you get to the mid and late game and you're just drawing lands instead of having extra lands in play. Now you're just being able to do direct damage to creature or player. Yeah, this is phenomenal. This card's going to be crazy. And our last card of the day is another kind of burn spell support card. This is a mythic rare. It's Pyromancer's Goggles. Costs 5. It's a legendary artifact, but you can tap it to add red mana to your mana pool. And when that mana pool is spent to cast a red instant or sorcery, you get to copy that spell and choose a new target for the copy. So basically you're paying 5 for a little bit of ramp, but then that ramp lets you fork any instant or sorceries that are red that you cast with it. That's awesome. Now, the only problem with this card is it costs 5. Burn decks don't really want to take a turn to pay 5 mana and really get nothing out of it. Burn decks just want to go, 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 go. But having said that, I could see maybe in a standard burn deck where the environment's slightly slower than, say, Modern or Legacy or something like that, where this card could see some play and get some use. In limited, as long as you have enough instant and sorcery spells to make it profitable, it will be fine in limited, but it's got to be in the right deck, obviously. If you don't have enough spells that are going to go along with it, it's not as good. But it still gives you red mana, so you're still ramping, if you can call it ramping. At that point, you're paying 5. So it still does something at least. So it's a very interesting card. I could see this seeing a lot of play in Commander, where 5 mana is very easy to get to very quickly. Could be interesting in some decks like that, with singleton decks with a lot of spells and instants and sorceries. Well, that is our journey for today through all the cards that were revealed. 9 new ones altogether. As always, hey, thanks for watching. We're going to continue doing this every day this week until they spoil the full set, and then we'll begin our full set review right away and get that out to you guys. Hopefully get you all prepared for the pre-release. So thanks a lot, and have a great day. Hey, thanks as always for watching. If you're still looking for quality Magic the Gathering videos, click on one of these annotations. And if you hadn't had a chance yet to subscribe, smash that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the breaking MTG news, spoilers, set reviews, crazy product openings, or gameplay videos on Heroes and Legends MTG. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.